Welcome to my channel Official History of Coins. Today, we're taking a close look at a coin that most people would never think twice about, the 1965 USA $quarter Liberty coin. At first glance, this quarter looks like nothing special at all. Let's get started. In fact, most examples look dirty, scratched up, faded, and heavily worn from decades of use. The silver shine is usually gone, the edges look rough, and many of these coins sit forgotten inside old jars, drawers, or pockets mixed in with ordinary change. A lot of people see this coin and instantly assume it has no real value because it doesn't look rare or impressive. But that's exactly why this coin keeps surprising collectors. Beneath that worn appearance is a piece of American coin history that has become one of the most talked about modern quarters in circulation collecting. And believe it or not, even an ugly-looking 1965 quarter can sometimes carry real value depending on what details are hiding on its surface. The story behind this quarter is actually one of the biggest turning points in United States coin history. Before 1965, American quarters were made with real silver, but during the early 1960s, the price of silver started rising fast. People began hoarding coins because the metal inside them was becoming valuable. The U.S. Mint faced a major coin shortage, and the government needed a solution quickly. That's why the 1965 quarter became so important. It was the very first Washington quarter made without silver for regular circulation. Instead of 90% silver, the coin was produced using a copper and nickel-clad composition. To many Americans at the time, this change felt huge because it marked the end of an era. Even though millions were made, collectors today still pay close attention to 1965 quarters because this transition year created unusual errors, rare varieties, and a lot of mystery around certain surviving examples. If you have one of these quarters, the first thing you should do is slow down and inspect the visible details carefully. Look at the date and make sure it clearly says 1965. Then examine the surface under bright light. Check the lettering around the edges, study the eagle on the back, and look closely at the rim and mint texture. A surprising number of valuable coins get overlooked simply because people never take the time to inspect them properly. Some 1965 quarters show unusual strike characteristics, missing clad layers, doubling, or strange coloring that can increase collector interest dramatically. Others were accidentally struck on silver planchets left over from 1964 production, and those are among the most valuable examples collectors dream about finding. Even if your coin looks dull and damaged, it still deserves a careful inspection because appearance alone does not decide value in the coin world. One reason collectors continue chasing the 1965 quarter is because condition can change the value dramatically. A heavily circulated coin may still attract attention if it has a rare minting issue or unusual detail. Meanwhile, cleaner high-grade examples with sharp features can sell for impressive prices because so many ordinary coins from this year were used heavily in circulation. Some collectors have paid around $850 for strong examples with noticeable collector appeal, while certain era coins have reached around $1,300 depending on the exact variety and condition. That surprises many people because these coins were once treated like ordinary pocket change for decades. The truth is that rarity in coin collecting is not always about age. Sometimes it's about timing, mint mistakes, survival rates, and hidden characteristics that only careful collectors recognize. Another fascinating thing about the 1965 quarter is how many people accidentally spend valuable examples without realizing it. Because the design looks so common, rare pieces can pass from hand to hand unnoticed. Collectors often search rolls of quarters from banks hopping to discover something unusual hiding among ordinary coins. There have been stories of people finding transitional silver errors or exceptional mint-state examples in old family collections, estate boxes, and forgotten jars of change. Some stronger collector-grade examples have sold around $2,100, while rarer high-end pieces with special characteristics have pushed toward $3,400 at auctions. That kind of money for a quarter still shocks people today, especially when the coin itself often looks old, gray, and unimpressive at first glance. When examining your coin, one important detail is the edge. Standard 1965 clad quarters usually show a visible copper stripe along the edge because of the layered metal composition. But if a quarter appears fully silver around the edge with no copper color visible, collectors immediately become interested. That could indicate a rare transitional error or another unusual minting situation. Weight also matters, and serious collectors sometimes use small digital scales to compare standard clad coins against possible silver planchet errors. Tiny details can completely change the value story of a coin. This is why experienced collectors always say never judge a coin by appearance alone. A scratched and ugly quarter may still carry historical importance and serious collector demand if the right characteristics are present. One thing you should never do is clean the coin. A lot of beginners think polishing or washing an old quarter will make it worth more, but the opposite is usually true. Cleaning can damage the surface permanently and destroy the original texture collectors want to see. Even if the coin looks dark, stained, or unattractive, leave it exactly as it is. Natural aging is often preferred in the coin hobby. Some collectors actually trust worn, untouched coins more than shiny, cleaned ones, because original surfaces help prove authenticity. Certain untouched examples of the 1965 quarter have sold for $4,700 or more when they showed rare qualities combined with strong preservation or unusual minting errors. That's why patience matters more than appearance when dealing with older coins. So the next time you come across a 1965 USA $quarter Liberty coin, don't ignore it just because it looks dirty or worn out. This coin represents a major moment in American history when the country changed the metal used in everyday money, and that alone makes it special. Hidden among millions of ordinary quarters are examples with real collector value, and sometimes the difference between a common coin and an expensive one comes down to a few tiny details most people never notice. Keep your eyes open, check your change carefully, and remember that even rough-looking coins can still be worth real money. Thanks for watching, and maybe your next quarter won't be ordinary after all. Next coin, the 1966 USA $quarter Liberty coin, is one of those coins that almost nobody stops to look at anymore. Most surviving examples appear dull, scratched, faded, and heavily worn from years of circulation. The shine is usually gone, the edges look rough, and the surface often carries dark stains or tiny marks from decades of handling. To the average person, it feels like just another old quarter with no real importance. People toss these coins into jars, leave them in drawers, or spend them without a second thought because the coin simply does not look valuable at first glance. But that worn appearance is exactly why this quarter continues to fool people. Beneath the scratches and discoloration is a coin connected to a major shift in American coin production, and certain examples of the 1966 quarter have become surprisingly desirable among collectors who understand what they are actually looking at. One reason the 1966 quarter is often overlooked is because of how common it once seemed. During the mid-1960s, the United States Mint was producing enormous numbers of coins to deal with a nationwide coin shortage. The government had recently removed silver from circulating quarters starting in 1965, and many Americans were unhappy about the change. Older silver quarters were disappearing from circulation because people were saving them, so new clad quarters flooded the market. The 1966 quarter was part of that emergency-era production period, and because millions were made, people naturally assumed they would never become collectible. But coin collecting has a strange way of turning ordinary objects into valuable pieces of history over time, especially when collectors begin searching for better condition examples. mint errors, and unusual strike qualities hidden within massive production years. You hold a 1966 quarter in your hand today. There are several details worth checking carefully. First, look at the date and confirm it clearly reads 1966 beneath the portrait of George Washington. Then inspect the surface texture and lettering around the rim. Many valuable coins reveal themselves through tiny abnormalities most people overlook. Some coins show stronger strikes, sharper details, doubled lettering, or unusual color tones caused by minting differences. The reverse side with the eagle can also reveal important clues. On stronger examples, the feathers and lettering remain more visible even after circulation. Collectors often use magnification and bright lighting because small details can dramatically affect collector interest. Even if the coin looks damaged or unattractive, it can still carry strong value depending on rarity, condition, and mint characteristics. Condition plays a huge role in determining how much a 1966 quarter might be worth. A heavily circulated example with worn surfaces will usually bring less attention than a cleaner coin with sharper details, but that does not mean circulated coins are worthless. In fact, many collectors actively search through circulated coins hopping to discover overlooked treasures. A decent example with collector appeal may reach around $920, especially if the coin shows better than average preservation or eye-catching features. That surprises many people because these coins spent decades being treated like ordinary pocket change. The truth is that collector demand has steadily grown for transitional-era quarters from the mid-1960s because they represent a unique period in American coin history. Another reason these quarters attract attention today is because certain examples were struck with unusual minting characteristics during a time when the mint was operating under tremendous pressure. The 1966 quarter was produced without mint marks as part of an effort to discourage collectors from hoarding coins by mint location. That alone makes the series interesting because it breaks from earlier traditions. Some collectors specifically search for coins with exceptional strike quality from this year, because many examples were produced quickly and show weaker details. Better preserved coins can command surprisingly high prices, with stronger examples sometimes reaching around $1,650 or even $2,750 depending on quality and demand. These numbers continue to surprise people who still think of the 1966 quarter as nothing more than spare change. One of the most important things to examine is the edge of the coin. Standard 1966 quarters were made with a copper-nickel clad composition, meaning a visible copper stripe usually appears along the edge. But collectors pay very close attention to coins that look unusual in color or weight because rare transitional mint errors can exist. A coin with an odd metallic appearance, missing clad layer, or incorrect planchet can instantly become much more valuable. This is why experienced collectors study coins carefully instead of judging them by appearance alone. There have been cases where ordinary-looking quarters turned out to be rare error coins worth substantial amounts. Higher-grade examples with special characteristics have sold for around $3,850, proving once again that hidden value often exists where people least expect it. Something else many beginners do not realize is that cleaning a coin can seriously damage its collector value. When people find an old quarter, they often try polishing it or scrubbing away the dark color because they think shiny means valuable. In reality, cleaning usually destroys the original surface and leaves unnatural marks that collectors immediately notice. Even a dirty or ugly coin is generally worth more in untouched condition. Natural wear tells part of the coin story and helps confirm authenticity. Some untouched 1966 quarters with rare qualities and strong preservation have reached values of $4,900 or more at auctions and private sales. That kind of value from a quarter that once circulated through ordinary cash registers is exactly why collectors continue searching for these coins today. The 1966 USA $quarter Liberty coin may not look impressive sitting in a pile of loose change, but appearances can be incredibly misleading in the coin world. What seems like a scratched and worn piece of metal can actually represent an important chapter in American history and carry real collector demand. The combination of historical significance, transitional era production, collector interest, and the possibility of valuable errors keeps this coin relevant even today. So before ignoring another old quarter, take a closer look at the details, study the surface carefully, and remember that even circulated coins can still hold strong value. Sometimes the coins people overlook the fastest end up being the ones collectors want the most. Second coin, the 1970 USA $quarter Liberty coin, often shows up in the most ordinary and emotional moments, usually when someone is cleaning out an old house, sorting through a dusty drawer, or opening a forgotten jar filled with loose change that belonged to a parent or grandparent. At first glance, the coin almost always looks disappointing. The surface appears dull and lifeless, the edges are worn smooth, and years of circulation leave behind scratches, stains, and faded color that make it seem completely ordinary. Most people hold the coin for a second, shrug, and assume it has no real value because it looks old and damaged instead of shiny and rare. But that quiet little moment, when someone almost tosses the coin aside without thinking, is exactly where the story of the 1970 quarter begins. Hidden beneath that rough appearance is a coin that continues to surprise collectors, because sometimes the most overlooked coins carry the most unexpected value. There is something nostalgic about coins from the early 1970s because they traveled through so many different hands during a changing time in American history. The 1970 quarter was produced at the Denver Mint during an era when the United States had already moved away from silver circulating quarters. By then, most Americans had accepted the newer copper-nickel-clad coins, but many collectors still paid close attention to them because transitional years in coinage often create interesting varieties and collectible examples. Even though millions of these quarters were made, surviving coins in strong condition became harder to find over time because people spent them heavily for decades. Grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines, and cash registers slowly wore these coins down until many lost their original detail entirely. That constant circulation is part of what makes better examples stand out so strongly today. If you find a 1970 quarter, one of the first things to check is the small D mint mark located on the front of the coin near the date. That tiny letter confirms it was struck in Denver. Then take a closer look at the portrait of George Washington and study how much detail remains in the hair, jawline, and lettering. On the reverse side, inspect the eagle and the feathers carefully because stronger detail can increase collector interest dramatically. Many valuable coins look unimpressive from far away, but under proper lighting, small details begin to matter. Some collectors search for unusual strike quality, doubled features, off-center errors, or coins with exceptional preservation compared to normal circulated examples. Even if the coin appears dark and heavily worn, those visible features still tell an important story about its potential value. One reason this coin continues attracting attention is because appearance can be incredibly misleading in the world of coin collecting. People naturally associate value with shiny surfaces and perfect condition, but collectors understand that rarity and demand are often far more important than beauty alone. A circulated 1970 quarter with decent detail and original surfaces may still hold strong collector appeal. Certain examples have sold around $780 simply because they were preserved better than average or showed noticeable characteristics collectors wanted. That surprises many people because these quarters once moved through everyday commerce like ordinary pocket change. The emotional part of coin collecting is realizing that something ignored for years can suddenly become meaningful once its history and rarity are understood. As collectors became more interested in modern Washington quarters, the 1970s gained attention for the challenge of finding high-grade examples untouched by heavy circulation. Most surviving coins from this year show visible wear, weak strikes, or surface damage from decades of handling. Because of that, sharper examples became increasingly desirable over time. Some higher quality coins have reached values around $1,250 or even $2,050, depending on condition and collector demand. These prices continue growing because collectors appreciate coins that survived years of circulation while still retaining strong visual detail. Sometimes a coin, sitting quietly in an inherited collection, turns out to be far more valuable than anyone in the family ever imagined. Another important detail collectors examine is the edge of the coin. Standard 1970s quarters show a copper-colored stripe along the edge because of the clad metal layers used after silver coinage ended. But unusual coloring, missing clad layers, or strange surfaces can signal minting errors that dramatically increase value. Error coins remain one of the biggest reasons collectors carefully inspect even worn-looking quarters. Tiny differences invisible to most people can transform an ordinary coin into a highly desirable collectible. Some stronger examples with rare features or outstanding preservation have sold around $3,300, showing how serious collector demand can become for coins many people still dismiss instantly because of their rough appearance. One mistake people often make after finding an old coin is trying to clean it. The moment someone rubs, polishes, or chemically cleans the surface, the original texture can be permanently damaged. Collectors usually prefer coins exactly as they were found because natural wear and aging help preserve authenticity. Even dark toning and surface discoloration can add character instead of reducing interest. A cleaned coin often loses value because experienced collectors can immediately recognize unnatural shine or damaged surfaces. Some untouched 1970s quarters with exceptional condition or special mint characteristics have sold for $4,600 or more, proving once again that hidden value often survives inside coins people almost ignored completely. The 1970s USA $quarter Liberty coin is a reminder that valuable things do not always announce themselves loudly. Sometimes they sit quietly at the bottom of a jar, hidden in an old drawer, or passed down through generations without anyone realizing what they might be worth. What looks worn, ugly, and ordinary today may actually hold real collector demand and a meaningful piece of American history. That is why so many collectors continue searching through old change, hoping to discover something overlooked by everyone else. So if you ever come across one of these quarters, take a closer look before tossing it aside, because appearance alone never tells the whole story.